Hello and welcome to This Day in History for February 4th. February 4th is the 35th day of the year in the Gregorian calendar, with 330 days remaining until the end of the year, except for leap years, when there are 331 days remaining to the end of the year. This day marks the approximate midpoint of winter in the northern hemisphere and of summer in the southern hemisphere, starting the season at the December solstice. Yesterday we had a word whose definite article accompanied it to the English language. And in keeping with that motif, we'll look at other words for the next few days that have done that also. For instance, the word alligator came to us from the Spanish el lagarto, the lizard. The word alcohol came to us from Arabic al-kul, the powdered antimony, and by association, substances obtained by sublimation or distillation. Many, such as alkali, algebra, lacrosse. Lacrosse is from French and represents the crook or the staff carried by an abbot or bishop, and others are among the words bringing their own definite article. But it's not always so obvious, as we'll see in the next few days. An extreme example of this inadvertent duplication of definite articles is in the name of the Los Angeles site of prehistoric fossils and animals that had been stuck in tar pits. It's called the La Brea Tar Pits, which would literally translate as the tar pits. It does make for an amusing study. With that in mind, today's word is alchemy. Alchemy is a noun that means a medieval predecessor of chemistry devoted to things such as converting common metals into precious metals, finding a universal solvent, and finding a universal remedy for disease, or a mysterious or magical process of transformation. The word alchemy comes to us originally from Old French and medieval Latin, who got it from Arabic, alchemia, the chemistry, who got it from Greek, chemeia, which means transmutation. Now let me take a moment to mention that links to my research are included in the show notes, and to ask you to go ahead and hit that like button. Consider subscribing if you haven't already, and let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Share this video with others also. And with that, we're going to go to the year 1555, when John Rogers was burned at the stake, becoming the first English Protestant martyr under Mary I of England. This is the same Mary that we know as Bloody Mary that I've mentioned before. In 1789, George Washington was unanimously elected President of the United States by all 69 presidential electors. John Adams of Massachusetts was elected Vice President. The electors represented 10 of the 11 states that had ratified the U.S. Constitution and were chosen by popular vote, legislative appointment, or a combination of both about 4 weeks before the election. In 1794, the French legislature abolished slavery throughout all territories of the French First Republic, only to be reestablished in the French West Indies in 1802. On February 4th, 1826, the second of a 5-novel series called The Leatherstocking Tales was published by James Fenimore Cooper. This one was called The Last of the Mohicans. On February 4th, 1861, delegates from 6 southern states convened to establish the Confederate States of America. This is the birthday of American pilot and explorer Charles Lindbergh, born on February 4th, 1902. Also the birthday of Rosa Parks, who was born in Tuskegee, Alabama on February 4th, 1913. On February 4th, 1915, Germany declared a war zone around the British Isles. On February 4th, 1920, the Ford Motor Company acquired the Lincoln Motor Company for $8 million. On February 4th, 1938, Adolf Hitler appointed himself as head of the Armed Forces High Command. And in more cheerful news, on that same day, February 4th, 1938, Disney released Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. On February 4th, 1945, Franklin D. Roosevelt, Prime Minister Winston Churchill, and Soviet leader Joseph Stalin met to discuss the Allied war effort against Germany and Japan. They met in Yalta, so this is known as the Yalta Conference. Each of these three men came with their own ideas and their own agendas. As I understand it, there were several matters upon which they couldn't entirely agree, but the main sticking point was, what about Poland? Ultimately, the Yalta Conference was a foreshadowing of the Cold War. This is the birthday of Vincent Damon Fournier, better known as American singer, songwriter, and actor Alice Cooper, born on February 4th, 1948. He turned 72 today as I read this in 2020. On February 4th, 1962, the first U.S. helicopter was shot down in Vietnam. And in more cheerful news, this is the birthday of American singer, songwriter, guitarist, and producer Clint Black, born on February 4th, 1962. On February 4th, 1974, the 19-year-old granddaughter of newspaper publisher William Randolph Hearst, Patty Hearst, was kidnapped by the Symbionese Liberation Army. On February 4th, 1983, singer-songwriter Karen Carpenter died of heart failure due to her years-long struggle with anorexia. I've placed a link in the show notes to one of her performances if you're too young to remember Karen Carpenter, or if you're old enough to remember her and would like to see a performance. On February 4th, 2004, a Harvard sophomore named Mark Zuckerberg launched a social media website then known as the Facebook. And I think that's going to do it for us today. As always, links to my research are included in the show notes. Give it a like if you enjoyed this video. Consider subscribing if you haven't already. Please share this video with others and let me know if you have any comments or ideas about what I've presented. While you're watching videos, you might as well check out my other channel, 8 Susquehanna. There's a link to that in the show notes as well. Thanks again, and I'll see you next time. Mind your manners. So many mistakes. Where were we? Oh, come on now. What is wrong with my mouth today? Let's try something different here. All right, do that again. There's a good girl. Good girl. I don't know how all that's going to go together, or if it's even going to make it to the video. We'll just see. That's not going to go. Probably cut all that out. That'll all be laying on the cutting room floor. So I'll just do that whole thing over. That might not make it into the video. We'll see. Changing it up.